Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune. Today, we're going to be talking about the 3 limited units that are coming out right around the corner. Going to be a information video on how I feel about these 3 units in detail, where they're good, where you might use them, what your priorities should be when you're pulling on the banner, depending on your resources, and things like that. Before all that though, be sure to subscribe, like, comment if you enjoy this video and want to see more. You know, that's the best way to support the channel. Also, catch me at Twitch at twitch.tv/WildNeptune. I usually start streaming around 9 a.m. UTC. So, let's get going. We will talk about Landy. Out of all the units that are in the banner, she's the most flexible. She can be built a number of different ways. So, I do have triple S, and my gear is pretty good, but these are the stats I use that fit my playstyle. Some people will build it bulkier with less damage. Some people maybe faster. Some people slower, right, with more damage. Some people on counter. It just depends on how she fits the role that you're going to use her in the most. As far as where you will use her, she's not only flexible with gearing, she's flexible in the content that she can do. So, let's start from top down with, I think the thing most players are concerned about is World Arena, or RTA. And in RTA, she's probably my second most picked damage dealer, at least for me, personally. I don't have, like, my exact stats, obviously, but if I had to guess, I draft her a lot. She is very strong against any type of, like, knight style team, and can really punish units that are susceptible to AoE or buffs, right? Some Falcon and Cerise have actually been taking off Justice for All because that extra buff actually makes it so that Landy, if she has a soul burn, can S3 at max souls 2 times in a row, which is, you know, well, like, into a normal crowd, right? Which isn't ideal for the enemy team. She's also good, though, in normal arena. Not as glamorous, obviously, but there's still a lot of teams that just want to bulk up, like this one, or even this one, right? You know, gonna be fairly bulky. And if you can bring her with enough support just to survive a little bit, it might take a little time, but the time that these fights took for me before Landy was a lot longer than after Landy's buffs. So, if you just want to out-sustain some of these teams, and you don't really want to, you know, Dark Corvus, something like that, Landy is a pretty good option, honestly. She is also pretty good in expeditions.
Power has brought unrest
The
to
Dark
sanctuary.
and Water expeditions, she is a perfectly fine DPS. You'll be able to boost your units here, do some damage. Same thing for the water one. Obviously, she's a grass unit, so she gets some extra bonuses there. And because she's a DPS unit that has no debuff on the S1, she is viable for some Abyss stages too. So, not something I would say is necessary, but, you know, something to think about. As for other things, the only other thing here would be Hunt. And she is, I guess, okay for Banshee, not the best. But for A13, because the boss and the ads constantly have buffs up with the defense buff, she S3s quite a bit and does quite a bit of damage. As for the artifact you should use, right now, I have Guiding Light on her. This is what I use when I do RTA. I also have her on my... As for the artifact that I use, in RTA, I use Guiding Light. Also, I do have her on my Guild Wars defense, where I also try to use Guiding Light. Sometimes I forget to swap it out. The other two artifacts that she tends to use the most will be Bloodstone and Wall of Order. For arena attack, and for, honestly, almost any content outside of RTA, I think Bloodstone is actually her best artifact. It gives her a lot of survivability in the expeditions by healing, you know, her allies, especially in the Dark One, right? And also even in A13, it really helps heal quite a bit. And for longer fights too, it's really nice. In PvP, in RTA, things like Wall of Order and Bloodstone, it's feast or famine, where in some fights, they look incredible, right? Like, you 100% won because you got a greater, or because you healed a lot, right? But other times, you really want the Guiding Light, so that your Landy just doesn't die right away. Or, like, doesn't get Falcon Declared off the bat. So, there is that trade-off with that. But, Landy is a terrific unit for RTA, normal arena, decent for Guild Wars defense if you have a decent build, good for expeditions, and a hunt. So, a very versatile unit overall. Next, we'll talk about Cerise. Out of all the three units, Cerise is the least flexible. She really only has one use case, and that is PvP. So she is a top unit in RTA. She's really strong on arena defense, and also in Guild Wars defense. She's not really a offense unit in those other two PvP formats. So those are really the three things you will use her in particular. She only has one build, and that is going as fast as you can. Technically two builds. One of them is going like this, where you have bulk and decent speed, right? Some effectiveness, more is obviously better. Or, if you run it with CDOM, you run max crit chance, and you don't care about these here, and you just want to have, again, as much speed as possible. Out of the three units too, she's definitely the hardest one to gear. Her ceiling, though, is so high that it's hard to tell people not to pull on her, because she's she's been game breaking ever since her buff came out, and even before the buff, she was already a good unit. As far as her artifacts go, I use Miss Confi, however you say it. If you don't have this because you weren't around for the last Guilty Gear artifact collab, the other ones people kind of use, depending on the build, is Guiding Light. Some people will run like Sash if they're cleaving with her, or even like a artifact that's gonna buff the rest of your team. So not as flexible as like Landy maybe, but in the artifact department, I do think Miss Confi though is hands down the best artifact she has. But if you don't have it, don't let that dissuade you from pulling on Cerise. She's a terrific PvP unit. And very important to a lot of current PvP strategies, and even like just as a speed check, because she has things like the restrict on the S3, which, you know, land restrict on some units, sometimes they just lose. So that's pretty good. And last up, we will talk about Diene, who is her use cases have fluctuated a bit now. At the moment, Soul Weavers, besides, I say, Ray, and occasionally things like Singelica, and another one I can't think of off the top of my head, have a hard time in RTA. There are cases where you might want to pick her in RTA, but those are not as common this season as it was last season. Now, obviously, this might change in future seasons if they change the way that some mechanics work again. So maybe Diene comes back into the meta again. Because in Season 2, Diene was a really strong unit in RTA. So we never know. But at this very moment, if you only care about RTA, Diene isn't the best. However, she's good in other things. Like, she's really strong in arena offense, where she has, you know, a barrier for some debuff cleansing. If you have Rod, some healing too, and just giving your team increased attack and crit resistance for a bunch of turns is really good to help push you through some of those like sustain teams. She's also one of the best units for the Dark Expedition,
with a task like this. Lucky we've got
where you buff up, right? Because she has those non-attack skills that you need. And if you have Rod, will help mitigate some of the damage that you're taking because of this boss's effects. She's also really strong in Abyss. After Tamarin, I would say she is the best supporter in Abyss there is. She is if you're struggling with like some of the later floors, especially like 100, stuff like that, Diene is really good. Especially because her soul generation is second to none. She just gives so many souls. I believe her S3 gives 5 souls, is it? No, 4 souls. Right, 4 souls, right? But still a lot of souls when you mold it, which you should. But yeah, you know, pretty good in a lot of content. Besides RTA, I'd say. She's okay in Guild Wars on offense. She has fallen off a little bit there. Like, not as many defenses are weak against, like, the SSB Carmen DN comp anymore. People now make defenses to, like, think about that a lot of the times. But still has some use cases there. As for the artifacts, the only artifact I chase is Guiding Light. It is by far the best one out of the 3. Unfading Memories is okay if you don't have like a second rod to use, but it's not really worth getting except for collector's purposes. So if you are limited on your pulls, your coins, right, or your dust, save it for more important things, like buying a bottle or saving when a really good artifact comes out, like crown, basket, things like that, right? Because I rarely use Wall of Order, and I only use this for PvE, right? But I use Guiding Light all the time. So that's really what I would say about the artifacts there. 240 dust from the dust shop is pretty expensive. So remember that when you buy banner artifacts, it is 240, and that there will be a bottle rotation. So you'll be spending, like, if I say buy Guiding Light and a bottle, that's only 480 dust, right? That's like over half my dust I have, and I haven't bought anything but bottles for quite a bit. So if you are limited on your summons, and you know you want to get like multiple units from the pool, and you have to buy a unit from the coin shop on the special banner, you might have to, you know, dig into this a little bit and save those sky stones and bookmarks. If you are, say, have a lot of resources, so let's say you have like 30,000 sky stones and like 1,000 bookmarks, but and don't have any of them, by all means, right, get all of them, right? You have enough, right? They're definitely worth it. They're 3 units that are really, really good in what they do. Like, probably like the top echelon. But let's say you can only get 1 unit. Which unit should you get? In my opinion, it would be Landy. Her gearing, while not easy, is the most flexible out of all of them, and she's being used in the most content out of all these 3 units. If you can only get 2 units, I would pick Landy, and if you really care about PvP, Landy and Cerise. If you want a PvE stabilizer, Diene is one of the best PvE stabilizers in the game. And we never know if she'll be good again in World Arena like she used to be. Again, that's speculation though, so if you're more on the I like doing things like Expedition, you know, see my characters like damage, like stats go up, stuff like that, the end's pretty good. If you want to do PvP, and when I say PvP, I mean push into like champion, legend, right? Then you probably want to get Cerise over the end. But those are my thoughts and opinions on the new limited banner that will be out in a couple of days. Again, thanks for watching. Catch me on Twitch to watch me pull these soon. Nep out.